At 82 years old, I've lived through a lot, seen a lot, and learned more than I ever expected. But if there's one decision I truly regret, it's this: moving into a nursing home. At the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. My family reassured me I'd be taken care of, that I'd be safe, comfortable, and supported. I believed them. I wanted to believe that this new chapter would offer peace of mind, both for me and for them. But the truth is, the moment I moved in, I realized life inside a nursing home was nothing like what I had imagined. Maybe you're watching this because you, or someone you love, is thinking about taking that step. Maybe you've been told it's the safer option, or that it will make life easier. I understand. I thought the same. That's why I want to share this with you. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. These are the 6 things I wish someone had told me before I moved in. Because life in a nursing home doesn't just change your address, it changes your independence, your routines, your connection to the world. And once you're in, getting out isn't always as easy as it sounds. So please stay with me until the end. Some of these lessons might surprise you. And if you know someone facing this decision, this might be the video they need before making a life-altering choice. Let's begin. Regret 1. Losing my independence. The biggest shock after moving into a nursing home wasn't the unfamiliar room, the scheduled meals, or even being surrounded by strangers. It was the realization that I had quietly lost control over my own life. At home, I had the freedom to decide how my day would unfold. I woke up when I wanted, cooked what I liked, sat in my favorite chair, and took quiet walks whenever I felt like it. My routines weren't fancy, but they were mine. In the nursing home, that sense of ownership disappeared almost overnight. Everything ran on a schedule. Breakfast was served at a set time, even if I wasn't hungry. Lights were turned off, whether I was ready to sleep or not. If I wanted to go outside for fresh air, I had to ask, wait, and hope someone was available to assist me. Even small choices, what to eat, what to wear, when to bathe, started to feel less like rights and more like requests. I remember my first morning there. I woke up in a bed that didn't feel like mine, stretched out my arms, and instinctively reached for the book I had been reading at home. But when I looked around, I saw nothing familiar. My books, my old chair, my cozy space, gone. In their place were sterile walls, a hospital-style bed, and a silent reminder that I was no longer in charge. The hardest part wasn't adapting to the system. It was watching myself disappear into it. Over time, you stop pushing back. You stop asking for little things. You learn to go along because it's easier. But as you do, pieces of who you are begin to fade. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you truly ready to let go of the small freedoms that define your life? Because once they're gone, you'll miss them far more than you can imagine. Regret 2. Feeling forgotten. One of the quietest heartbreaks of moving into a nursing home is realizing how quickly the world keeps going without you. When I first arrived, my family promised they'd visit often, and in the beginning they did. My daughter came by every week, my grandchildren dropped in on weekends, and for a while I felt connected. I still felt like part of their lives. But slowly those visits faded. The calls became shorter. The plans to stop by turned into apologies for being busy. And eventually I found myself sitting alone in the common room, watching others stare at the front door, hoping today would be the day someone remembered them. It's not that my family stopped loving me. Life just got busy. School, work, routines. When you're not part of their everyday world, it's easy for people to assume you're doing fine, that you're being cared for, that you don't need as much attention anymore. But the truth is, no amount of nursing staff or scheduled activities can replace the simple feeling of being remembered by the people you love. I remember sitting in my room one evening, holding my phone, debating whether to call my son. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want him to feel guilty. So I put the phone down, stared out the window, and realized this was my life now, waiting, hoping, remembering moments that once felt ordinary, but now feel like gifts I took for granted. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, are you prepared for that kind of loneliness? Because no matter how strong your family bonds are, once you're out of sight, it becomes all too easy to fade out of mind. Regret 3. Losing my sense of purpose. When I moved into the nursing home, I thought I was simply changing where I lived. I didn't realize I was also letting go of why I lived. At home, even the smallest task gave my day structure and meaning, watering the plants, making my morning coffee just the way I liked it, straightening up the living room, even if no one was coming over. These small rituals reminded me that I still mattered, that I had a role to play in my own life. But in the nursing home, those routines disappeared. Meals were made for me. My bed was already made. The floor was cleaned. The plants were someone else's responsibility. At first, I told myself it was a relief. No more chores, no more responsibilities. Just rest. But very quickly, I noticed the days felt longer, emptier. I wasn't tired. I was just unneeded. I saw it happen to others too. People who had once been full of life began to sit quietly in corners, staring at nothing. There was a man named George, a retired carpenter who had spent decades building beautiful things with his hands. At home, he was always tinkering with small projects. But here, there were no tools, no workbenches, no reason to keep his hands busy. I watched the life in him fade a little more each week. One day he looked down at his idle hands and said to me, "I just feel useless." And I knew exactly what he meant. When we stop having something to care for or contribute to, something inside us begins to dim. The mind slows down, the body follows. You stop feeling like yourself and start feeling like someone just passing time. If you're thinking about moving into a nursing home, ask yourself, what gives your life meaning right now? Because once you're inside, it's not as simple as filling your time. It's about fighting to hold on to the parts of yourself that still make you feel alive. Regret 4. Health declines faster than expected. Before I moved into the nursing home, I wasn't in perfect shape, but I was doing well for my age. I could walk around the house without help, make my own meals, and keep up with little tasks that kept me moving. I wasn't training for a marathon, but I was active enough to feel strong, steady, and in control of my body. But once I moved in, everything started to change, and it happened faster than I could have imagined. At first, it seemed like a luxury. Meals were brought to me. I no longer had to stand in the kitchen or clean up after myself. If I needed anything, I just pressed a button and someone came to help. It felt convenient, even comforting. But slowly I realized that convenience was replacing movement. And without movement, I started to decline. The less I walked, the weaker my legs became. I sat more than I stood. Simple things, getting out of a chair, walking to the bathroom, began to feel like effort. Muscles that took years to build were fading in just a few short months. And I wasn't the only one. There was a woman named Alice. She was 81 and proud of staying active. When she first moved in, she walked laps around the building every morning. "I'm not slowing down just because I'm old," she said. But then she started taking fewer walks. Eventually, she needed a walker, then a wheelchair. One day she looked at me and said, "I don't know when it happened, but I feel like I aged 10 years in 6 months." That's the danger no one talks about. The more help you're given, the more your body forgets how to help itself. In a place designed to make life easier, it's easy to let your strength slip away. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, will you still have the motivation to keep your body strong when everything around you makes it easy to sit still? Because once you slow down, getting back up isn't as easy as you think. Regret 5. Loss of privacy and dignity. One thing I didn't truly think about before moving into a nursing home was how much of my privacy and dignity I would have to give up. At home, I had space that was mine. I could close my door, sit in peace, and do things on my own schedule. I had control over my time, my body, and my environment. In the nursing home, that privacy quickly disappeared. Staff come in and out at all hours. Room checks, medication rounds, shared bathrooms. It feels like someone is always nearby, even when you don't want them to be. And while most staff are kind and respectful, it's still not easy to let someone assist you with things you've done alone your entire life. Getting dressed, taking a shower, using the bathroom. These once private moments are now shared with people who barely know you. I remember early on, needing help with something simple, like changing clothes. I hesitated. I wasn't used to asking, but in here, you have to. And sometimes you wait. Pressing a call button doesn't mean help will come right away. It means waiting your turn, sometimes longer than you'd expect. Even meals are fixed. If you don't like what's being served that day, you may not have many options. You stop choosing, you start accepting. And then there's the matter of roommates. Not everyone gets a private room. I was lucky to have a kind roommate, but others weren't so fortunate. Some had to share space with people who snored, argued, or were in cognitive decline. Imagine trying to sleep or find peace in a room that's not really yours, next to someone you didn't choose to live with. Little by little, you stop feeling like a person and start feeling like a patient. Someone who's being managed, not someone living their life. Even when people knock before entering, they often don't wait. You're spoken to kindly but differently, like someone who can't decide for themselves anymore. If you're considering a nursing home, ask yourself, are you truly prepared to give up the privacy and dignity you've lived with for decades? Because once that part of you fades, it's hard to get it back. Regret 6, it's harder to leave than you think. When I first moved into the nursing home, I told myself it wasn't forever. Just a trial, something temporary until I figured out what came next. I thought if it didn't feel right, I could always go back home. What I didn't realize was how quickly that option could slip away. In the beginning, leaving seemed simple, but slowly everything outside started to change. My home, the one I had lived in for years, sat empty. It became harder to maintain from a distance. My children began making decisions, getting rid of things, considering renting it out. They meant well, but each change made going back harder. Then came the doubts. After months of not cooking, not cleaning, and barely moving, I wasn't as strong as I used to be. My confidence faded. I wasn't sure I could handle being on my own anymore. And when I brought up the idea of leaving, my family hesitated. "Are you sure?" they asked. "Wouldn't it be safer to stay?" I could hear the concern in their voices, but also the quiet resistance. They had settled into this new routine, even if I hadn't. And I wasn't alone. I met others who thought the same way, just for a little while, just until things got better. But the longer they stayed, the more permanent it became. Some even lost the option to leave entirely. Their homes were sold. Their savings went toward care. The life they once lived became something they could no longer return to. No one tells you that moving into a nursing home feels reversible, until suddenly it's not. The systems around you, the changes back home, the slow weakening of your body and spirit, they all build invisible walls. And before you know it, this place becomes your whole world. If you're thinking about a nursing home, ask yourself honestly, are you prepared for the possibility that once you go in, leaving might not be as simple as you think? Because staying in is easy. Getting out, that's the hard part. Final thoughts. Looking back, I don't regret growing older. Aging is a privilege. Not everyone gets that far. But I do regret believing that moving into a nursing home was my only option. I walked in hoping for safety, comfort, and peace of mind. What I found instead was a life that slowly took away the very things that made me feel alive. My independence, my purpose, my privacy, and in many ways myself. That doesn't mean all nursing homes are bad. For some people, they truly are necessary. There are cases where the level of care they provide is exactly what's needed. But what I wish someone had told me is this. Before you make that decision, take time to understand what you're giving up. Because once you move in, life changes. And in many ways, it never goes back to the way it was. If I could go back, I would have fought harder to stay in my own home. I would have looked into home support, community programs, or shared living arrangements. Anything that allowed me to keep my freedom a little longer. I would have asked more questions, pushed back a little more, and made sure that I truly needed to be there before I said yes. And if you or someone you love is facing this decision, I hope you do the same. Don't choose what's easiest in the moment. Choose what will matter most to your future self, your comfort, your dignity, your connection to the life you've built. Because the routines you have, the freedom to decide how you spend each day, the familiar things you surround yourself with, they're not small. They're what make life feel like yours. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope these reflections help you or someone you care about make the right decision for the right reasons. If you found this video helpful, please leave a comment and share one thing that stood out to you. Your words mean more than you know. And if you'd like to hear more thoughtful insights like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, inspires, and honors the lives of older adults everywhere. Until next time, take care of yourself and hold